Welcome to New Wave Global. I'm Marvi Sirmed and this is Unraveled. It's July 2025. The world has largely moved on from the tragic Pahalgam massacre and the military exchange that followed. But this past week, a name re-emerged on the global security radar: the Resistance Front, TRF. On July the 17th, the United States Department of State designated the TRF as a foreign terrorist organization, FTO, and a specially designated global terrorist, SDGT. The designation marks the first formal recognition by a major global power of TRF's alleged role in regional militancy. In its statement, the US referred to TRF as a front and proxy of Lashkar-e-Taiba, itself a UN-designated terrorist group, and cited the April 22 Pahalgam terrorist attack as a key justification. That incident, may I remind, killed 26 civilians in one of the deadliest attacks in Indian-administered Jammu and Kashmir in recent years. But the US announcement did not offer a public evidence trail or name specific individuals. It made no mention of command nodes in Pakistan-administered Kashmir, nor did it disclose how the link between TRF and LET, Lashkar-e-Taiba, was established beyond labeling TRF as an offshoot of the former. What then lies beneath this designation and why now? The TRF designation is not occurring in a diplomatic vacuum, so to say. In fact, it lands at a complex moment for South Asian geopolitics and US relations with both New Delhi and Islamabad. Let's unpack this context, unravel it. The TRF designation comes amid a thaw, a newfound warmth in US-Pakistan relations. In late May, Pakistan's Army Chief General Asim Munir, Field Marshal Asim Munir, visited Washington. US President Donald Trump, now in his second term, praised Pakistan's constructive role in what he claimed was a US-brokered ceasefire between Pakistan and India in last May, following India's airstrikes on its sovereign neighbor, Pakistan. President Trump has also hinted at the downing of 5 Indian fighter jets, much to the chagrin of India. India quickly rejected President Trump's claim. Foreign Minister Jaishankar reiterated that New Delhi does not accept third-party mediation and that no role was played by Washington in the ceasefire, which, according to Indian accounts, was negotiated directly through military hotlines between Pakistan and India, and claims that it happened on the request of Pakistan, which Pakistan obviously denies, and fully credits President Donald Trump for brokering the ceasefire. And President Donald Trump doubled down in multiple press conferences, press engagements, and media talks, and social media posts. He spoke of saving South Asia from the brink almost 24 times, and drew a direct equivalence between India and Pakistan, a language that rankled New Delhi, which has worked for years, almost a decade and a half, to dehyphenate its diplomatic identity from that of Pakistan. At the same time, US-India ties are under economic strain. Trade negotiations launched in early 2025 has stalled over market access and tariffs. President Trump has revived his rhetoric from his first term, again calling India a tariff king and threatening retaliatory duties on Indian steel and pharmaceuticals and other products that come to USA. Behind closed doors, Indian officials express concern that Washington is using security cooperation, including counter-terrorism designations such as this, as leverage in unrelated economic negotiations. In this context, the TRF designation might serve dual purpose, reinforcing US alignment with India's counterterrorism priorities while tempering Indian dissatisfaction over recent American overtures towards Pakistan. Islamabad, for its part, denies any connection to TRF and rejects the US designation as unilateral, political, and lacking evidentiary transparency. In a statement, Pakistan's Ministry of Foreign Affairs called on Washington to avoid importing narratives from regional adversaries. While Pakistan has taken visible steps to curtail banned outfits like Jamaat-ul-Dawa and Falah-e-Insaniyat Foundation under FATF scrutiny, both of these have been known to be the offshoots of Lashkar-e-Taiba LAT. But it has not listed TRF under its own domestic terrorism statutes. Officials in Islamabad argue that groups like TRF are an expression of indigenous resistance in India-administered Kashmir to Indian state actions in Jammu and Kashmir. So now comes India's multi-year diplomatic campaign. This US move did not come out of nowhere. India's effort to push international recognition of TRF as a terrorist outfit began well before the Pahalgam massacre. Beginning in 2023, India proscribed TRF under its Unlawful Activities Prevention Act, UAPA, the notorious UAPA. The group's alleged commander, Sheikh Sajjad Gul, was formally declared a terrorist by Indian authorities in 2023. By late 2023 and early 2024, Indian diplomats began quietly sharing intelligence with the United Nations Security Council's 1267 Sanctions Committee, claiming TRF was a front for Lashkar-e-Taiba's reorganized operations. Following the April 2025 attack in Pahalgam, this effort escalated into a full-blown diplomatic campaign. On May 14 and 15, a high-level Indian delegation briefed officials at the UN Office of Counter-Terrorism and CTED in New York. They presented evidence dossiers, reportedly including call intercepts and forensic data, the digital propaganda trails, and financial transactions allegedly linking TRF operatives to the known LET functionaries from inside Pakistan. India then formally requested the UNSC to list TRF under the 1267 sanctions regime. But as of July this year, right now, that process remains stalled. Reports suggest that China has placed a technical hold on the listing, similar to its earlier interventions on other Pakistan-linked designations. While the US designation is unilateral, India sees it as a vindication of its multi-year campaign, which I've just described. Now this campaign is in its third year. Now, looking at the implications for Pakistan, Pakistan-US ties and other regional fallout. Let's unravel this. So this designation is more than just a counter-terrorism signal. It carries multi-layered diplomatic weight. How might this affect Pakistan's burgeoning ties with the United States? What are the projected reverberations in global financial oversight and regional balance? Let's unravel this. Just weeks earlier, Pakistan's army chief, Field Marshal Asim Munir, was hosted at the White House, as I mentioned before. President Trump publicly praised Pakistan's stance, publicly praised Asim Munir, then Pakistan's stance, and claimed US efforts helped broker a Kashmir ceasefire, a claim that India has repeatedly rejected as interference or, uh, you know, it has just registered its protest in officially and through through its media as well. The designation of TRF, it complicates this diplomatic warmth, signaling Washington's acknowledgement of continuing concerns over Pakistan-linked terror networks. So Pakistan needs to be cautious of, this transactional engagement arrangement. Pakistan has sought recognition as a stable strategic partner post-Afghanistan withdrawal. And analysts note that Pakistan is leveraging its mineral-rich economy and counter-terrorism cooperation to secure IMF and US investment, and also uh, an image of a responsible global actor. Yet, such economic and diplomatic outreach now coincides with renewed scrutiny from US law enforcement and financial regulators after this designation. India diplomatically pushes back. New Delhi registered formal protests over Trump's Pakistan outreach and remains wary of Washington's overt overtures compromising its counterterrorism messaging. Russia-India alignment is also being reconsidered to hedge against US unpredictability. FATF also puts Pakistan under the spotlight. It's the financial surveillance. In June 2025, this past June, FATF's report flagged that, and it was celebrated in India, I must remind you. So what this report said, it said that Pakistan might be re-added to the grey list because of its inability to curb terrorist financing effectively, citing the Pahalgam linkages as a new cause for concern. Pahalgam reported linkages because no one has verified India's accusations so far. For the context, Pakistan exited the grey list in 2022, restoring access to international lenders. Now, India is advocating that Pakistan be re-added to this grey list, arguing that groups like TRF and their, its alleged linkages with Lashkar-e-Taiba, the already UN-designated terrorist organizations, which India alleges still operates from the soil of Pakistan. So these linkages, India argues, undermine compliance, Pakistan's compliance to the recommendations of the financial surveillance by FATF. The financial watchdog can be pressured again, but Pakistan's re-entry to the grey list, I don't think it is automatic. International allies and internal, reforms in Pakistan that we are seeing are happening, have been happening for like a few years now. They could help Islamabad retain compliance. And if that happens, putting Islamabad back on a grey list would be difficult, howsoever diplomatic push India tries. Also, Pakistan has, tried and tested narrative strategy. Islamabad positions this designation as politically manufactured, while, as we have seen in the statement by the Foreign Office, that I just cited a few minutes ago. So Islamabad frames it as a politically manufactured designation, and also emphasizes compliance on other fronts with Western institutions, including IMF and World Bank. So this narrative aims to mitigate economic fallout, which, if credible evidence of Pakistan's terror financing or sponsoring terrorist organizations like TRF is not presented, it would be very difficult to convince FATF or influence FATF to grey list Pakistan once again. So on accompanying sections of FATF report that came in June, it references Pakistan's covert procurement of missile-related dual-use equipment from China, which can be framed as a possible link to broader proliferation financing. So the financial consequences of this could be a return to the grey list, which would restrict Pakistan's access to international financial institutions, the lending institutions, to raise transaction costs and deter foreign direct investment, FDI, which will compound a struggling economy already facing high debt. But I said it is going to be difficult for India to push for Pakistan to be put on the grey list. But Pakistan's diversified engagement with China, Gulf states, and Belt and Road projects, it provides cushioning. Strategic push towards alternate corridors also, Islamabad continues to deepen ties with Iran and Central Asia, so to speak, the alternate corridors, and strategically pushes these relations, which with revival of the frameworks like APTTA and pursuing connectivity via China's CPEC and upcoming Chabahar collaborations with Iran, decreasing direct dependence on Western finances. But this is tricky in the Trumpian era. So Islamabad will have to watch very carefully how to navigate this very complicated situation. About India-Pakistan escalation flashpoints. Now, following India's unilateral suspension of the Indus Water Treaty and its subsequent attack on Pakistan in May, Pakistan also suspended the Simla Agreement, closed the Wagah-Atari border, froze trade. There was the visa bars by both the countries, Pakistan and India. There were the diplomatic engagements were curtailed by both the countries. The TRF designation adds pressure to Islamabad in this situation to respond. Or risk the beginning of diplomatic or economic isolation, which Islamabad does not afford. Islamabad is not in the mood of having that. So Islamabad will leverage with whatever possible, leverage points it has to change that equation, to change that calculus. Through its renewed ties with President Trump, President-Trump-led USA, the Gulf states, China, the European states, Russia, which has been a long time strategic partner of India. But over the recent months, we have seen it warming up to Pakistan as well, which Pakistan will leverage and take benefit of strategically. Now, does this indicate an alignment shift? Well, Pakistan is balancing Washington's overtures with deepening military procurement from China, including talks for J-35 stealth fighters. Some analysts view this as a dual alignment, as Islamabad maintaining strategic flexibility. Some analysts view this dual alignment as Islamabad maintaining strategic flexibility, which can prove good for Pakistan, but both China and the USA can take advantage of this as well, strategic advantage of this as well. Now, Pakistan's pivot toward China um, has deepened the defense and infrastructure cooperation. However, its expanded engagement with Iran and Gulf states reveals a multipolar balancing act. If we look at the South Asian recalibration, we see India capitalizing on Western alignment, but Islamabad may retain autonomy by playing strategic cards with China and Gulf partners, as I said earlier. Now, there come the third-party mediation narrative. So President Trump's claims of US mediation in the India-Pakistan ceasefire his narrative of India-Pakistan brokering India-Pakistan ceasefire contrasts with obviously India's firm rejection, but Pakistan remains willing to insert itself in third-party discussions, which positions it as a broker rather than an outlier. So this is a very important element in Pakistan's strategic calculus at this point. India, however, continues to press for multilateral financial and diplomatic barriers, notably leveraging FATF and international financial institutions to limit Pakistan's international footprint. So Islamabad is approaching this as a diplomatic contestation, not as a final verdict. After the State Department's statement on the TRF designation, Pakistan's Foreign Office stated, and I quote, Pakistan has effectively and comprehensively dismantled concerned outfits, arrested and prosecuted the leadership, and de-radicalized its cadres. The investigation into the Pahalgam attack is still inconclusive. Any linkage with LET, Lashkar-e-Taiba, a defunct organization banned in Pakistan, belies ground realities. Pakistan condemns terrorism in all forms, has zero tolerance, and continues to cooperate internationally against terrorism. Also, there was, as noted by Al Jazeera in one of its reports after the US designation of TRF, it has quoted Pakistan's foreign office spokesperson as saying that emphasizing that Pakistan only provides diplomatic and moral support to the Kashmiri people, but condemns the attack on tourists in Pahalgam. Now, this shows Pakistan's belief that the evidence against it lacks consensus, and that regional stability requires a nuanced framework beyond adversarial labeling. So the projected impact of this designation by the US State Department from a Pakistan's perspective, we can summarize as like this. So US-Pakistan ties can have potential cooling due to this designation. So in summary, while the US designation of TRF carries symbolic weight and may bolster India's international position, the underlying consequences for Pakistan in economics, diplomacy, or strategic alignment are far from decisive. Pakistan remains central to US regional strategy, particularly around Afghanistan and Iran, and continues to build economic alternatives and strategic partners outside the Western sphere. As the story unfolds, one fact stands clear. The Resistance Front TRF designation by the United States is more than naming a terrorist group. It is a signal in a broader geopolitical chessboard. Its implications ripple across international relations, financial oversight, and regional stability. From Washington's corridor to Islamabad's policy chambers and New Delhi's diplomatic playbook, uh, in multilateral forums, the impacts are far reaching. In layers of geopolitical complexity, designating TRF as a terrorist entity is not merely a counter-terror measure. It's a narrative with contested uh, interpretation. It's a narrative with contested interpretations and shifting strategic relevance. Pakistan may face rhetoric and scrutiny, but its regional indispensability in Afghanistan, Iranian policy arenas, Middle Eastern situation cannot be discounted. Likewise, global financial institutions may weigh diplomacy, reform, and regional stability alongside political pressure. In Unraveled, we are committed to cutting through the narrative thicket. We bring you balanced perspectives, data-based context, and continual follow-up on how this story and its actors navigate the evolving landscape. Stay engaged. This story is just the beginning, and we will follow it up wherever it leads. Tune into our next episode in which we focus um, we unravel the TRF, what it is, what are the Indian claims, what is Pakistan's stance, and what the group has been doing and continues to do. Stay tuned while we track this story in real time. Thank you for watching. I'm Marvi Sirmed, and this is Unravel. Unravel will follow this wherever it leads. Have a good one.